You've been carrying rejection like proof that something is wrong with you. When people pull away, stop replying, or change how they treat you, your mind immediately turns inward. You replay every conversation, analyze every word, and ask yourself what you did wrong. You assume if they left, you must be the problem. But here's the truth most people never tell you. Someone not liking you does not mean you are unlovable. It does not mean you are too much, not enough, or difficult to deal with. Sometimes it simply means they never truly saw you, only the version of you that was convenient for them. And when you stopped shrinking, stopped pleasing, or stopped fitting their expectations, they disappeared. That isn't failure, that's clarity. Not everyone has the capacity to understand your heart, your honesty, or your growth. And losing people who cannot hold who you truly are is not a loss, it's protection. Many people don't love you. They love the version of you that serves them, the version that listens without needing anything back, the version that stays quiet, agreeable, useful, and available. As long as you fit that role, they stay close. But the moment you grow, set boundaries, speak honestly, or stop shrinking yourself to keep them comfortable, something shifts. Their warmth fades, their effort disappears, and eventually so do they. That isn't betrayal, it's revelation. Your honesty challenges people who survive on avoidance. Your peace unsettles those addicted to chaos. Your growth threatens those who have chosen stagnation over healing. So instead of rising with you, they retreat from you. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped being convenient. It's important to understand this. Their leaving is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their capacity. Some people cannot walk with you into deeper truth because it forces them to confront what they've been running from within themselves. When people quietly exit your life as you become more yourself, let them go without self-blame. You didn't lose anything real. You simply outgrew what could never hold the fullness of who you are becoming. Not every heart has the depth to understand you, and that is not a flaw. It is reality. Some people simply do not have the emotional space, awareness, or maturity required to meet you where you are. They may misunderstand your silence, misread your sensitivity, or feel overwhelmed by your honesty. That does not mean you are asking for too much. It means you are offering more than they know how to receive. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. Connection requires capacity, and not everyone has done the inner work needed to hold your thoughts, your feelings, or your truth without trying to change them. When someone cannot meet you emotionally, the answer is not to shrink yourself, quiet your voice, or dull your light just to stay connected. You do not have to make yourself smaller to be acceptable. You do not have to simplify your heart to be loved. The right people will not feel burdened by your depth. They will recognize it, respect it, and respond to it with care. Let this be your permission to stop adjusting yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you. Your fullness is not the problem. It is simply waiting for hearts strong enough to hold it. You have spent far too long bending yourself into shapes that made everyone else comfortable. You learned how to stay agreeable, how to smooth tension, how to keep the peace, even in rooms where you were the only one making an effort. You carried the emotional weight, swallowed your needs, and convinced yourself that giving more would eventually earn you the care you deserved. But instead of being met with the same fullness you offered, you were handed crumbs, small gestures, half effort, conditional attention. And still, you stayed. Still, you tried harder. Not because it felt right, but because you were chasing approval you were taught to believe you needed. That chase has exhausted you. Here's the truth. Love, respect, and belonging were never meant to be earned through self-erasure. You were never meant to shrink your voice, dull your boundaries, or overextend your heart just to be chosen. The people who truly value you will not require you to perform, overgive, or disappear to keep them comfortable. Let yourself stop trying so hard in spaces that give nothing back. Peace that costs you your authenticity is not peace at all, and approval that drains you was never worth chasing in the first place. You do not need everyone to like you for your life to have meaning. Approval from the crowd has never been the measure of your worth. What truly matters is connection, and connection does not come from being liked by many, but from being seen by the right few. You don't need people who applaud a version of you that is constantly performing, explaining, or proving itself. You need people who recognize you even when you are quiet. People who hear what you mean, not just what you say. People who value your presence without asking you to entertain, impress, or diminish yourself to stay welcome. A meaningful life is not built on popularity. It is built on authenticity, and authenticity naturally narrows the room. When you stop trying to be everything to everyone, you create space for the ones who actually belong with you. The ones who meet you with honesty instead of expectation. The ones who choose you without conditions or negotiations. Let go of the pressure to be universally accepted. It was never your assignment. Your life matters because of who you are, not because of how many people approve of you. The right people will find you, not because you tried harder, but because you finally stopped performing. The text reminds us of a truth that is both humbling and freeing. Even Jesus, perfect in love, compassion, and truth, was misunderstood, criticized, rejected, and ultimately abandoned by many. Not because he failed, not because he lacked anything, but because the hearts around him were not prepared to receive what he carried. This matters more than we realize. We often assume rejection means we were insufficient, unclear, or unworthy, but history shows us otherwise. Sometimes rejection happens not because something is wrong with you, but because what you represent challenges people at a level they are unwilling or unable to face. Truth can feel threatening. Love can feel confronting. Light can feel uncomfortable to those accustomed to darkness. Being rejected, then, is not proof that you are off track. It is often evidence that you are walking in alignment with who you are meant to be. Not everyone has the capacity to understand depth, humility, or purpose when it does not serve their expectations. So if you find yourself misunderstood or pushed aside for staying true to your values, remember this: rejection is not unusual. It is often the cost of authenticity, and it does not diminish your worth. It reveals the limits of what others can hold. When someone does not choose you, goes quiet, or decides to walk away, it is easy to let that moment define you. Silence feels personal. Distance feels like a verdict. You start questioning your value, your words, your worth. But the truth is this: another person's response does not have the authority to measure who you are or why you exist. You were never placed here to audition for approval. Your life is not a performance, and your purpose is not up for a vote. You do not need to explain yourself into being loved or prove yourself into being chosen. The right connections will not require constant justification, emotional labor, or self-abandonment to stay intact. Someone walking away does not erase your significance. Someone staying silent does not diminish your voice. And someone failing to choose you does not mean you are unworthy of choosing. It simply means their capacity, timing, or direction could not align with yours. Let yourself step out of the mindset that says you must earn belonging. You already belong to yourself, to your purpose, to the life you are becoming. The people meant to walk with you will not need convincing. They will recognize you without requiring proof. You were never meant to be everyone's favorite, and that truth is meant to free you, not wound you. Your calling was never to be universally liked, endlessly agreeable, or endlessly available. You are here for something deeper, to live fully, honestly, and courageously as the person God created you to be. When you choose authenticity over approval, not everyone will stay. Some will step back the moment you stop performing or adjusting yourself to fit their expectations. But the ones who are meant for you will not need persuasion. They will recognize your spirit without explanation. They will stay without being chased. They will love you not just on your strongest days, but also in your tired, quiet, imperfect moments. Real connection does not demand constant effort to maintain. It flows from mutual understanding, respect, and grace. The right people will not require you to prove your worth or hide parts of yourself to remain accepted. They will make room for your growth, your honesty, and even your struggles. So let go of the need to be everyone's favorite. That was never your assignment. Your life has meaning because it is lived in truth. And when you walk faithfully in who God designed you to be, the right people will find their way to you, naturally, freely, and without conditions. Not everyone is meant to walk with you through every season of your life, and accepting that truth can bring deep peace. Some people will not like you, understand you, or choose you, and that does not mean you failed. It simply means their path, capacity, or purpose was never aligned with yours. Holding on to people who cannot meet you with clarity or care only teaches you to abandon yourself. When you tie your identity to someone else's acceptance, you hand them power they were never meant to have. Their approval becomes the mirror you use to see yourself, and when it disappears, so does your sense of worth. You are not required to stay where you are unseen, unheard, or unchosen. Letting go is not bitterness. It is wisdom. It is choosing self-respect over constant self-doubt. It is understanding that presence without understanding is still absence. Your identity was never meant to be built on who stays or who leaves. It is rooted in who you are becoming, not in who can validate you. The people meant to walk with you will not confuse you about your value or make you feel like you must earn a place beside them. Release what cannot hold you. Make space for connections that choose you freely, without conditions or convincing. What feels like rejection is often something far more gentle and purposeful than it appears. Many times it is God quietly closing a door you were too exhausted, too attached, or too afraid to close on your own. You stayed because you hoped things would change, because leaving felt like failure, or because walking away required a courage you didn't think you had. So God intervened, not to punish you, but to protect you. Loss often feels personal. It feels like something was taken from you. But in many cases, it is simply a sign that you were never meant to remain where you were. What ended could not hold the fullness of who you are becoming. What fell apart was limiting your growth, draining your spirit, or pulling you away from your purpose. God's direction does not always come as comfort. Sometimes it comes as disruption. A closed door can feel painful in the moment, but it can also be an act of mercy, redirecting you away from what would have cost you too much in the long run. Trust that what left your life made room for something more aligned. Not every ending is a loss. Some endings are guidance. And sometimes being forced to move is the very thing that saves you. The stories of Joseph and David remind us that rejection does not disqualify a person. It reveals truth. Joseph was rejected by his own brothers, betrayed and sold. Yet that rejection became the path that led him into purpose. David was overlooked by his own family, unseen when a king was being chosen. Yet God saw what others ignored. Their rejection was not a sign of insignificance. It was evidence that their destiny required a different environment. Sometimes rejection is the only way God can remove you from places that cannot sustain what He has placed inside you. There are rooms that applaud you only when you stay small. There are relationships that celebrate your usefulness but resist your calling. If you stayed, you would slowly shrink to survive. So God allows rejection, not to wound you, but to free you. Being pushed out can feel humiliating and painful, especially when it comes from people who should have seen your value. But rejection often acts as separation. It exposes who recognizes your worth and who never truly did. What cannot honor your growth cannot accompany your future. If you are being removed, trust the process. You are not losing ground. You are being repositioned for what can actually hold your destiny. Every time you bend yourself to be liked, you quietly step away from who you truly are. You soften your voice, hide your opinions, and compromise your values. Not because it feels right, but because being accepted feels safer than being authentic. At first it seems harmless, but over time, the distance between who you are and who you present becomes exhausting. If everyone likes you, it may not be because you are extraordinary. It may be because you have made yourself easy to digest, palatable, non-threatening. But truth was never meant to be watered down. Real honesty challenges comfort. Real growth disrupts familiarity. And not everyone is willing to face that. Truth offends those who have built their lives on denial. Light unsettles what has grown comfortable in the dark. So when you choose to live honestly, some people will pull away, not because you are wrong, but because your presence highlights what they would rather ignore. This is the cost of authenticity. It narrows the room, but it deepens the connection. You lose applause, but you gain integrity. You lose surface-level approval, but you reclaim yourself. Do not confuse universal acceptance with alignment. Being fully yourself will never make you liked by everyone. And that is not a failure. It is a sign that you are no longer diluting your truth to fit places you were never meant to belong. When someone says no to you, whether in a relationship, a job, or an opportunity, it is easy to take it as a judgment on your worth. Rejection often sounds like a verdict, convincing you that you were lacking, late, or not enough. But most of the time, that story is simply not true. A closed door does not mean you were unqualified. It means that door was not yours to walk through. A relationship that didn't choose you does not mean you were unlovable. It means that person was not meant to walk beside you. Not every no is a failure. Many are directions quietly guiding you away from what cannot support who you are becoming. God does not remove things from your life to punish you. He redirects you to protect you. If something had worked out, it might have kept you stuck trying to prove your value in spaces that never recognized it. It might have delayed you from the place where you would be met with clarity instead of confusion. So when you hear no, pause before turning it inward. You are not lacking. You are being guided. That path, that door, that person was never meant to be your destination. You do not need anyone's approval to be worthy. No one else's yes has the power to complete you or confirm your value. You already carry worth simply because you exist, because you were created with intention and purpose. Long before anyone noticed you, chose you, or affirmed you, your life already mattered. Following God often requires a kind of courage that feels uncomfortable at first. It means letting go of people who never truly saw you, only the version of you that fit their expectations or needs. It means releasing relationships where you were constantly explaining yourself, shrinking yourself, or waiting to be chosen. Not because you are bitter, but because you are finally honest. Walking away does not mean you failed at loving. It means you are choosing alignment over attachment. Sometimes obedience looks like distance. Sometimes faith looks like trusting that God sees what others missed, and that His affirmation is enough to sustain you. The people meant to walk with you will recognize you without requiring proof. They will not need you to perform, convince, or beg for space in their lives. So let go without fear. You are not losing your worth by leaving. You are honoring it